All right, and we're live. So welcome everybody to this Friday session of Industry Highlights with Lead the Way Learning Academy. I'm Ernest Levert. I'll be doing a lot of talking and a lot of listening today. I'm excited to have Mr. Darius Torrance on the call with us from Vision Realty,
Hello.
along with some of our other AMP coaches in the building. So, we got to start off with some energy. We'll do a quick intro round. Everyone, Darius, we'll have you say the best for last. So if and remember to pass the mic. We'll go in alphabetical order. A comes before I. So I'm gonna pass the mic to Amal. If you can introduce yourself, tell us who you are, and what do we want to do for our check-in today. Last week we talked about what we wanted in our dream house. What do we want? What do we want this time? I'll say if you could live anywhere in the world, where would it be? That would be that would be our check-in for the week. So, yeah, DJ Amal, take us off.
Hey everyone, my name is Amal, aka Magic Molly Mall. Where would I live? I'm an AMP coach. That's a hard question. I don't know. I don't know where I'd live. Probably somewhere overseas. Maybe in the Middle East, but I don't even know about that.
Or if you could visit anywhere in the world. Well, that's also.
Is it?
Yeah. If you need time, you can pass it.
Probably Turkey. I want to go to Turkey.
That's what's up.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, who you passing the mic to?
Wait. I'm passing it to Amira.
If I could live anywhere in the world.
Wait, who are you?
Oh, I'm Amira. I'm Coach Amira. Yeah, not here. Coach Amira. And if I could live anywhere, it would be North Africa, hands down.
Very good. Y'all gotta pass the mic. Y'all don't go to spoken word events.
My bad. Sorry, I'm multitasking.
Oh, I understand. All right, we'll spin it over to Coach Jess.
In the English alphabet, I thought L came before W, but maybe we gotten fancy with it. But I'll go. I'm Jessica.
We're doing first names.
I like how you saved him. That was cute. Jessica, if I could live anywhere in the world, I think it would be somewhere out of the country. Maybe Africa, but then I don't know. I have to keep the current climate into consideration. So
where would you visit if you could visit? How about you just try it out? You Airbnb it for a month or something.
It's the same thing.
Gotcha. Have you been to Motherland before?
What do you mean? What do you say?
I said, have you been to the continent before?
I have not.
Okay, that's what's up. I'll dig it. I see what you were doing there. I'll pass it back to myself. I'm Ernest Levert with Lead the Way Learning Academy, AMP Coach, Quality Assurance Associate. If I could visit anywhere, I want to visit Ethiopia. I've never been there before. I've been to Ghana, but I want to go to East Africa. Apparently, I got some roots there, so we want to check it out. So thank you everybody, AMP Coach team, and we'll swing it over to our guest for today, Mr. Darius Torrance. If you could tell us a little bit about yourself, where you would visit anywhere in the world, and you could just kind of jump into your journey and your path.
All right. So my name's Darius. I work for Vision Realty, and if I could go anywhere in the world, I would. See, it sounds so general. I would go to Africa. One of the extremes, either like Senegal, all the way out west, or like all the way out east in Somalia. I'm not sure where, just somewhere, And yeah, I would really like to do that.
That's what's up, man. That's what's up. Well, we appreciate you joining us for part 2 about the real estate. We got a chance to check in with Payne Jr. last week. So we're excited to kind of pick up where we left off and to get your unique perspective, hear more about your journey, specifically how you got into this, how you got connected with Vision Realty, and keeping in mind that we are working with the Achieve More and Prosper program through Lead the Way. So we're We work with youth ages 16 to 18 and above, making sure that they're getting transitioned into the next phase of their lives with success and support. So just kind of keeping in mind where you were at when you were 16, 17 years old. So kind of talk to us just about your path. Like, when did you start thinking about real estate? How did you jump into that?
Man, so I honestly didn't think about real estate, like becoming a realtor or even a real investor, a wholesaler, anything like that until about 2018. That's just a couple years ago. I was at a point where I had to make a choice. You know what I mean? I really had to decide which way I was going to go. And I decided that real estate was the way to go. Going back to when I was 16, 17, like the youth that might be watching this, I didn't make the best decisions, like not at all. I actually, by the time I was 19, I had been to 2 prisons here in Ohio. So I had to really figure out how I was going to get the things that I wanted. You know what I mean? Because everything I was surrounded by, it didn't equate with the lifestyle that I always said that I wanted. You know what I mean? So I had to, at some point, actually start getting into something. I don't know. Everyone has a different path. And I think all paths honestly can lead to the same thing. It's just about actually putting in the work. You have to get the knowledge, the experience. You have to really go out there and do it. So for me, this is my second chance kind of thing. You know?
Gotcha. Well, thank you for sharing that and for leading in transparency and authenticity. Those are definitely things that we value here. Is really owning your story, right? And so you said that you hadn't really considered real estate and you were involved in some other things. So when did real estate kind of pop up on your radar? You know, when did it show up as an option for you? You know, and what kind of how did you get exposed to it?
So I guess there's a couple answers to that. The biggest one, the first one, what drove me to really want to, you know, learn about real estate, about the markets, about housing, is that I didn't have a house. You know what I mean? I remember that summer from April until about August. it was a long summer. You know what I mean? Figuring out what I'm going to do every night. And like I said, at some point you get tired of that. You know what I mean? And I definitely got tired of it way before it came to an end, I guess. I remember I was going out looking for a job pretty much anywhere back in 2018, that summer. And it was hard to even get, you know, Wendy's denied me for a job just flipping burgers at the restaurant. So things like that made me start to look more into business, how I could be the boss, basically. Really how I was thinking about it was being more in control of my destiny. But yeah, I started looking into entrepreneurship, and in that, somewhere I found out about wholesaling. I don't know if you guys have heard of wholesale in real estate, but it's basically it's a transaction where, let's say I go and put a house under contract. It's extremely below the value of the actual home. I then take that contract to a buyer within a time period that's specified in my contract and get them to actually buy that contract. So all I'm selling is the contract, but you can make money in the middle of it. You know what I mean? And so I started looking into that. I started studying YouTube videos, really thinking I was going to wholesale a house. You know, this summer I'm gonna start wholesaling and I'm gonna get into the business. And it didn't work exactly that way, but that's how I got started.
Now you just said a whole lot. You know, there's so many nuggets in there and so many lessons. Like I just want to repeat back. Number one, he got exposed to wholesaling. Like that's not just something you come across. Donald taught me about that. I didn't know nothing about it. And so we're gonna have to come back and kind of unpack it with some numbers what that concept looks like. Because you know, for a house that's maybe in foreclosure or a house that's having a hard time selling, like that's where wholesaling really kind of steps in, right? So we'll have to kind of break that down so people understand the different routes. But I really wanted to call out a couple of things you said about when you got denied at Wendy's and you didn't let that break you, right? You didn't let a no stop you. You were like, all right, cool. Well, if you're not going to give me a shot, then I'm going to go make my own shot, right?
Absolutely.
So I just want to make sure we really call you out and congratulate and honor you for that. that resilience, right? We talk about resilience a lot and keeping going with perseverance. And then even you said you were in transition, and you said the lack of home ownership made you want to pursue home ownership.
Absolutely.
So I think that's even an exercise in privilege, right? Just because that's not how your story started doesn't mean that's how it has to end, right? That just
Yeah.
because you may not come from a lot of resources or come from that doesn't mean you can't be the first in your family to start it.
Yeah, exactly. We can get it
So
going.
I was like, you said a lot right there. So I just wanted to call that out. And I didn't express this earlier. If you all have any questions, you can feel free to put them in the chat, and we'll be sure to bring those into this space. So before we move on, can you kind of break down what that wholesaling looks like? Can you put some numbers on it? Like, what's an example of a wholesale kind of transaction?
Okay. Let's say that there is a house in a city neighborhood listed for, it needs a lot of work. It's listed for about 30,000. Okay. So if you, I would only advise this if you have, good connections with agents, with investors, people who would be interested in actually collecting that contract. Because if you wait until the end of that, I believe it's a 14-day period usually. If you wait until the end of the 14-day period and you don't have anyone else in contract, then you're liable for the contract. So that's a big piece that's important. But you buy this house for 30,000, or you put it in contract for 30,000, and then within about 14 days, you go shop it around to investors and other people who would be willing to buy it, to actually pay the 30,000, whether that be cash, whether that be financing, that doesn't really matter. But you find some qualified buyers. You basically take them the contract, but at a higher price than you got it. So if I got it for 30, I could take it to someone else for 35 or 40,000. And as long as it still makes sense as far as a deal, meaning that the market value of the home, so the market value of the home is up here, the contract is down here. There are going to be necessary renovations. So if those renovations cost too much, or if you over leverage how much you're giving, then it might not make sense for the investor. But if you make sure you get all those numbers down and you know what you're doing, then you could definitely get, you can make some money wholesaling. I actually know a couple guys through Donald Jr. who are extremely good at going out there home selling deals.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is it's almost like an exercise in access, right? If you got access to deals, and maybe it's not listed publicly on a website, and maybe you're like, your neighbor is underwater and they are having a hard time, they want to get, and so you have access to that house.
Yeah.
But you don't necessarily want to own the house yourself. You just want to bring other people into the picture and make some money in the process.
Absolutely.
Right? So you can go into contract on the house and go through the process of buying it, but you're not actually going to own it. You just pass it off to somebody else, and you can make $5,000 to $10,000 in the process.
All you own is the paperwork, and if you pass it off the right way, you can make a nice living on the back end.
Jess, Amir, and Amal, does that not blow your mind? Is that not crazy to you?
I don't think I'm following. I have a question. I actually raised my hand.
Yeah.
Oh, you did. I see that.
Okay. So I'm not sure if I'm getting lost on the terms or what, because in my mind, when I'm hearing you are buying the contract or taking over the contract, if you aren't able to find a buyer within those 14 days, it sounds to me as if you took over that mortgage and you're going to then be responsible for the mortgage. But what was just said sounds like maybe that's not it. I don't know.
So you're not taking over necessarily the mortgage, you're taking the home because that's what's in contract. You know what I'm saying? So you're not necessarily assuming that person's mortgage, but you are taking on a new mortgage for whatever value that, you guys set. And
so in your example, if you bought the home for $30,000, whatever that mortgage would turn out to be, is that what you're responsible for? Or am I not understanding?
You'll be responsible for the 30. Absolutely.
Is it always a 14-day window? Because that seems very quick. Because why would one want to have multiple contracts open or in their name You know what I mean? Say if you're saying 2, and then if you have 14 days to get it all done, you can, in theory, end up being held responsible for multiple contracts if you're not able to get them off quick enough.
Absolutely. That's why I said it really is best when you work closely with other investors or agents, someone who has access to qualified buyers. You know what I mean? Because you are liable for that. That's the tricky side of wholesaling, I guess. You will be liable for that contract if you take it and you cannot sell it.
Are there certain requirements for a home to be eligible to be sold as a wholesale home?
No, I would say, so I'm not a wholesaler, but I will say that the biggest requirement is that there's that space. And remember when I said the market value of the home versus the renovations and what you're buying it for, if the market value is here and your renovations cost up here, then it's not really going to work for the next investor. Wouldn't want to take that contract because that doesn't make sense. You know what I mean?
You have to be a realtor to buy a home wholesale?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
And so something that kind of jumped out to me, Jess, those are wonderful clarification questions. So thank you. One thing that really jumped out to me was the word risk. And that's the reason why I wanted to even go into this topic a little bit more, not to encourage people to jump into wholesaling. I'm not recommending that. I just believe in exposure and I believe in curiosity and planting.
Yeah.
And it's something to look into, especially because a lot of times we're so afraid to go into spaces where there is opportunity because we've been told that it's really risky and it's really scary. And I think there's a way to develop a healthy appetite for risk.
Yeah.
Right? So that way you acknowledge it, it's calculated risk. You acknowledge, like Jesse, you said, that you could be liable, you could be on the hook for that mortgage, you could have to pay additional money every month, but it could be worth it if you end up making 5,000 to 10,000 out of it by helping someone else get access to a deal that they might have not had access to. And then everyone makes money in the process. So can you talk about how you can, about the role of risk in the mindset of someone who goes into real estate, both from like the realtor side, but more from the investing side?
Okay.
I know we have a lot of youth who are interested in, they've heard that you can make a lot of money in real estate, but we haven't explored all the channels. So, but we got to get a healthy appetite for risk. Can you talk to that point?
Absolutely. So I'll start with realtor. It's a lot less risky to be a realtor than it is to be an investor, but there's still some risk associated. So if I don't, well, I'm not a realtor yet, actually. I'm an inside sales agent. But if Don Jr. doesn't close, a house this month, then he won't get paid this month. You know what I mean? Now, I'm sure he has a couple dollars left somewhere else, but you can't do that for too long. So you have to kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? You have to produce. Now you have to produce as a realtor to make a living. Now, when you do close, those checks are a little bit bigger than a work check every other week or whatever, but you have to manage that out for the next 6 months. What if you don't get a closing for the next 3 months, 6 months? You have to manage those things out. So that's some of the risk with being a realtor. Being an investor is a lot more risky. Well, it can be, I guess. You have to be able to run the numbers. You always have to be able to know what market you're in, know exactly what you're buying. And I feel like once you know what's going on, there's a lot less risk associated with investing. You never want to you always want to buy low, sell high. That's the best way to say it. So if you buy low, like we were just talking about buying a house for $30,000, if the neighborhood is usually worth about $75,000, you buy this house for $30,000, and it's needing about $20,000 in renovations, then that looks like a profitable deal. You know what I mean? You can put these $20,000 in and net about $25,000 somewhere in there.
Okay, so let's break some of those terms down.
Mm-hmm.
So you're saying that you're going to buy a house that's going to be you're going to borrow the money to get the house. You're going to borrow $30,000. You're going to spend $20,000 to fix the house up, and then you can sell it for $75,000, which means that you're making about $25,000 in the process. These can be really
Absolutely.
big numbers to folks. And so I just want people to be aware, like the average house in this city, like that's
It's
move-in
like,
ready, that doesn't need major repairs, it's
uh-huh.
still going to be like $75,000.
It's probably a little, I think it's a little bit more than that. Well, a lot of bit more.
Yeah, and I think that, like there's sticker shock that could come because I'm real cheap when it comes to houses. Like
Yeah.
right, everyone's looking all these houses that are getting flipped. Everything's costing like 150 to 200, and I'm like, that's too much. But that's average, and I'm just too cheap.
Yeah,
But I love the concept of buying low and selling high. Those are
absolutely.
that also is basic financial literacy. Is if you were just gonna buy, it's you buy a pair of Jordans, and you're not gonna buy the Jordans for 250 and then sell them for 100 if you're in that business. Like
Exactly. When
you
you say
buy
it like
them,
that, it's a lot simpler and it makes sense, you
yeah,
know?
you're gonna buy them for 250. You might let them go for 300. You got them quick, and then you let them go to someone else who needed them. Like
Hmm.
that's basically wholesaling, right?
Absolutely. That's exactly what it is, man. That's
Yep.
exactly what it
And if
is.
you can't find a buyer within a certain period of time, then you're just kind of stuck because they depreciate over time. Like, I want to make sure that overall people understand like these concepts can seem overwhelming, but you already know enough to get started.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I was brand new in this industry about 6 months ago, and now I'm pretty seasoned. I this week I started writing contracts and doing some comparables around the market. So it's stuff that you can definitely learn, but you have to put the time in, you know?
Yeah, and so talk to us more about that. I think this is something uniquely that you can bring to this experience is what does it look like getting your feet in the door or kind of getting started. You say you started as an intern, you've been in the business for 6 months. Tell us about like your day to day and what that looks like being brand new in the industry.
All right. So I will say too that for most people, it won't exactly be the same as me because I do have, like I said, I have a felony background, and that is something that you know, the Department of Commerce doesn't see fit usually to be an agent. So that's why I started out as an inside sales agent. Um, I think I applied last August, and after talking to the people here at the office, the Payne family, and talking to the Department of Commerce, I realized it probably wouldn't happen like I thought it would. So I reached out to the Paynes and let them know, hey, I actually don't think I'll be able to be an agent, but I appreciate all the help you've given me on this journey. And they actually said, hey, we understand you can't be an agent. I talked to them about my background, so they understood that. They said, hey, look, we like what you're doing. Will you come in and be an inside sales agent for us? And what that is basically, I make calls, you know what I mean? I make calls for all of our 10 agents and try and bring back some qualified prospects that will either buy or sell their homes. So that's what I started off doing, calling about 150, 200 people a day. I was going a little bit harder than I really had to, I guess, but yeah, started off doing just strictly phone calls. And that kind of taught me a lot. For the first 90 days or so, that was all I was doing. That taught me a lot about people. That taught me a lot about, how important it is, your tonality, to how you speak and your message are very important. That's one thing I've learned a lot through the last 6 months. And after that, I started embracing that role, doing a little bit better, booking a lot more appointments. And so Junior said, hey, man, I'm looking for an assistant. I'm looking for an assistant who can help me just kind of get my business in order, because as a realtor, you are a business. That's how you're supposed to look at it, at least. You're your own business. So he was like, hey, I'm looking for an assistant. I've had a couple qualified people who wanted to come on board, but you've been here for like 90 days now. I like what you're doing. Would you be interested? And so that's the new role I've been stepping into as well, while I'm still doing my ISA, making my phone calls. I also am helping Junior out with a lot more things now. gaining some experience that I wouldn't have got anywhere else. I'm gaining a lot of knowledge that I think I've learned a lot, but like people like Junior and Senior, they would say that they forgot more than I know. So that's something I'm still working on every day. And just I wake up, I come into the office. I usually start calling people at about 9 o'clock in the morning. I get done with my calls by about noon. About noon. And then after that, I do a lot of, I have a session of role play with another agent who lives out in Michigan. I do conference calls with agents across the nation, trying to get an understanding of what's going on kind of everywhere, and new techniques that people use, and how to stay the most current, all that stuff. Yeah, that's the most of my ISA role, how I first got started. But there's a million avenues to get started in real estate. There's we haven't talked about appraisers or inspections. There's so many different routes you could go in this business. Title companies, all of them have so much benefit. So I would look into everything.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And I know we touched a little bit last week on some of the different routes. Jess, were you about to say something?
No, I was just gonna say I think it's cool, like you were saying, like you both were saying about the different routes that there are to take. And I just wanted to say, Darius, I commend you for not taking no as an answer when you got when you know that you're a felon, but it's like you could have just been like, nah, I'm not able to be an agent, and fell off, but you communicated with the people that are your employers, and something was able to work out for you, and you were able to still gain knowledge and still move into different roles. So you're still within real estate, but not as an agent, which I think is cool. And I didn't know there are certain positions that require certain qualifications or would hinder you from gaining access to certain qualifications if you are a felon, have any other whatever that would hinder you doing it. So I think that's awesome. That's cool. That's something that I didn't know.
Absolutely. Thank you. That's kind of back to the persistence that Ernest was talking about earlier. How I got into vision. I used to work across the street. There's a diner called Ritzy's. And at the end of 2018, I had went to a real estate conference. Somebody, one of those free conferences you hear about on the radio. I just signed up for one of the, something like that. I went to one of those, and one of the things that they said is the first step that you can take today is implementation. So go out and actually do something, And so the next day I came into work, I walked across the street to Vision, and I told Payne Jr., hey man, I'm looking to learn about being a real estate investor. What can you teach me? What can I do? And he said, he gave me Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. He gave me the Central Ohio Real Estate Entrepreneurs, which is the Real Estate Investment Association here in Columbus. And he told me, hey, read this book, start going out to this group every month. And, hopefully I'll see you soon. And about 3 months later, I had signed up for school at Columbus State, started going there and started really digging into learning about this stuff a little more. I actually saw him at Columbus State, and I'm like, hey man, do you remember me? I came to see you at the office. I just started school, blah, blah, blah. He's like, yeah, man, I definitely remember you. Just keep in touch. Keep in touch. When you get done with school, keep in touch, and we'll do some business. And, it's been 100% real. They have had my back, through everything, and built like a family. It's a family business.
Yeah, man. See, there's so much to unpack in that itself. One was just the idea of persistency, and I just got off another call, and in spaces where, to Jess's point about like qualifications, when you're starting off entry level, it's really just your work ethic that sets you apart, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even if you don't know more than the next person, like how hard are you willing to work? How much are you willing to learn? Like that's what I keep hearing. And I want to encourage folks to keep that in mind. Like, I want to just commend your audacity. Like he just walked. You said you was working at the diner.
Yeah,
And you
yeah,
just walked across the street like, "What's up, y'all? I'm fired up. I came from this conference and I want to work with you."
yeah,
like that. That's the kind of stuff that they make a movie about, you know.
yeah.
So
Honestly,
that's actually really cool, and it just goes to show you like boldness is what's most important. Um, Before I get to talk about Columbus State, I do want to talk about like how your experience has been at Columbus State and how you got into that.
okay.
You said something earlier that was just like blew my mind. You said you call 100 to 150 people a day in 3 hours.
Yeah,
Like that's mind-boggling. And so the question that I had for you was, what advice would you give your 16-year-old self about communication and people skills? Like, what would you specifically say to yourself to maybe get yourself ahead of the game?
man. You're not always gonna get your way. You know, you have to learn how to deal with rejection. And believe me, I've definitely learned that a lot more over the last 6 months. You know, calling 100 people a day. I'm very lucky to get one or two that are interested in moving forward. Sorry, y'all hear my phone there. Sorry. um, so yeah, that's one thing that I would say. And you know, hard work pays off. You know what I mean? I don't plan on working 12-hour days for the rest of my real estate career. I do plan on that probably being my next year. And in that year, I should develop enough experience and understanding to really be able to go out and make my life easier. You know what I mean? So right now, it's going to be really hard. Like I said, learn how to deal with rejection and stay, um, I guess, stay centered, stay centered through the hard work because your hard work will pay off.
Yeah, and I just want to even unpack that. What are things that you do to keep yourself centered and balanced? I mean, because most of us, let's be honest, are afraid of rejection.
Yeah,
Um, Most of us just don't like it. We don't put ourselves out there. And so, what are things that you've done to feed your spirit, to develop your character? How have you been able to stay positive throughout all this?
man. Okay. A lot of it is mindset. So the people that I'm around really help me because I know that they, that is Paul. Okay. Okay. uh, so I forget where I was. I just saw Maya and now I'm lost. You know, hi Maya. I don't know if she can hear us.
Welcome to the call.
Hi, Darius. I had to come support. Thanks, Shahabi, for inviting me.
So thank you for coming.
Of course.
Um, all right. So where were we at? I forget.
Keeping yourself centered. How do
Oh,
you feed your mind? How do you keep a good mindset?
boom. So one of the things is mindset. The people that I have around me all have a growth mindset. They have a mindset of, you know, kind of get things done and then get to the next thing. And not only just here, but at Columbus State with some of these people, and at, you know, and dealing with my dad recently, he's really been another one of those forces with me. So mindset is huge. Um, I also I've been reading a couple books. There's one called Go for No, where that idea is you go for no. You shoot for those no's out of those 100 calls. Oh, I want 50 no's today. And until I get 50 no's, nothing else matters. You know what I mean? So you might set an appointment your first call in, but that doesn't mean anything because you haven't gotten your no's, you know? And that's another thing that helps me. It just helps my perspective because that's what it's really all about.
That's phenomenal. So go for no. I've heard of the book. I need to check it out. But I like the way you broke that down. Like even if you get early successes, right? I've heard the phrase like nothing fails better than success, right? Because you get a little bit of success and you kind of slack off and you forget the things you did to get there.
Yeah.
But if you get used to the no's, you kind of build up that endurance that says, hey, I can keep going no matter what happens. And then that's how you beat out everybody else, especially in the sales world.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that's what's up. Thank you for the book recommendation. We are building up our library for our young people for them to be able to tap in. And the cool part is that you can get this experience. You can borrow other people's experience just by reading a book.
Yeah,
So,
man.
so thank you for that.
Absolutely.
Can you talk to us more about your experience at Columbus State? So, your journey has been pretty cool. You said you went to a conference, you went across the street to Donald. He was like, "Hey, do this," and then your next step in the journey was Columbus State. What was that experience like?
So I'm still on that journey. I'm actually a student right now in the summer. I don't know why I took 13 credit hours, but I did. So it's been like since I started last January, um, I think I made more connections than I did in the previous like 5 years. You know what I mean? Like lifelong connections, whether that be through teachers who really wanted to see me succeed. Um, I can think back to my first semester. There's at least 4 teachers who I would always, I still want to keep up with. One of them I have a class with now. The other 3 I don't, but I still keep up with them from time to time. There has been a lot of, I feel like at any college or institution, you're with the next everything. So I'm the next real estate agent, but I'm also with the next doctor, politician, you know what I mean? And that is another thing that has been really cool to see all these paths that everyone else is going on and to see everyone elevate is a really cool thing to me. Um, Also, I was a student ambassador for the 2019-20 year. My bosses are here, and that was a truly life-changing experience. Like it just ended a couple days ago, and when it ended, because of this COVID crisis, uh, they popped up at my house. They had signs and they had like a big bag of stuff for me. You know what I mean? And it's like, all these people really want to see me succeed. You know what I mean? And knowing that, I feel like I can't fail myself or anyone else. And that's one of the things that Columbus State has really done for me. Added another sense of community, another family.
Yo, you low key start pulling at my heartstrings. He said, I felt them coming up. I'm very in touch with those emotions. So shout out to the leaders on the call who are pouring into the next generation. Your work is appreciated. So we talked about I want to take a quick pause to see if anyone else on the call has any questions or comments or wants to jump in. I want to make sure we're honoring all perspectives. Anything we want to add? All right, cool. Well, we'll keep it moving. So talk to us about some of your goals. So you said that you plan to work 12-hour days, or you really just do whatever it takes, right? He said, I'm going to be successful by any means necessary.
Yeah.
So for the next 1 to 2 years, but what are some of your long-term goals? What are some of the things you're working towards? What does success look like for you?
Actually, this morning I was just sitting out with my mentor, Payne Jr., and writing out a credit plan to get myself in position to buy my first property. In the end, I guess that's a start, but in the end, what I want to do is be kind of like just my mentors here in this office. I want to own some properties. I want to have some tenants, good tenants. Inside those properties, I want to expand, you know what I mean? And for me, I've always said that I want to have enough units to house my family, and I have a big family. So there's about 60 of us, and that's where I want to go.
Hold on. I just have to capture that number. You said you want to have enough units to house a family of 60.
Yeah, the Torrance family. And I want to have enough houses that everyone can have a place to go. You will have to pay still, but I would like to.
You got to be sustainable.
I would like to have enough space that kind of some of the issues I spoke on earlier in my younger days, they aren't an issue for my cousins, my brothers, my sisters, my children. You know what I mean? So that's the goal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that's even important because one of the things that we've talked about a lot is the power of a strong why and having a strong sense of purpose in everything you do. And some people are very self-motivated, and whatever they want to do, they set out to do, and they get it done. But I found that in my life, it's a lot easier for me to stay motivated when I have someone I care about who's involved as well. So
you hit that right on the head, man.
You said you got a whole family of 60 that you trying to house. Like, and even I thought about getting into the rental game. and I just have to have a strong reason for it. You know, I'm big on community, but if you can provide a home for somebody and not hit them over the head and not charge them $2,000 in rent, it's going to be decent, and we're going to support each other, and it'll be mutually beneficial. But
Absolutely.
I'm not going to exploit you in the process. You know, like that's
exactly.
We need more of that authenticity in that, and I think that's really good. And then another question, you know, speaking of authenticity, how have you been able to grow in this space and to adjust while still being true to yourself? And you know, it's easy to take a lot of people's advice and everyone else is telling you what to do, but how do you stay true to you?
Man, that's a good question. So one of the best ways is staying connected to those 60 people that it's really all about. You know what I mean? I call my grandma at least once a week, check in on her, make sure, you know, listen to whatever it is she wants to tell me that day. But my grandma, my dad has been another huge factor for me. I call in, stay really close to him and his teachings, even though they aren't exactly real estate. You know, a lot of that stuff is my foundation. It's kind of like staying close to my foundation. I go back home, whether that be to Canton or to my god babies down in Cincinnati. I just saw them this weekend. I go to see, you know, I just try and stay really connected with my people. And, you know, though I'm putting in 60 hours a week here at the brokerage, they still know that I'm accessible. And the other time that I have, and I'm never too far away.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. Staying grounded and remembering where you come from, right? Because a lot of people think they got to completely get rid of their family, their background, their experience. And like I said earlier, we're really big on people owning your story. Like your story is what sets you apart. Your story is what allows you to connect with other humans and use it to keep, you know, to fuel your fire, to keep you going. So thank you for honoring that. I do want to do another check-in. If anyone has any questions or comments, feel free to jump in. Otherwise, we're going to go ahead and transition, kind of wrap up. I feel like I got a lot to process from this. This is, you know, I love hearing people's stories, man. And you're definitely a shining star and a role model for everybody, just to keep going and have that endurance. And I love that you're even representing Columbus State, and you know, that to have such a lot of twists and turns along the journey, and to say, hey, I'm getting my education, I'm getting into business, you know, nothing can stop me. I think that's super commendable.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, for sure. So to kind of wrap things up, you know, we already got a book recommendation from you, so we're gonna take note of Go for No. You know, solid concept for anything, you know, even something as simple as a lot of people have reservations with asking questions in class, right? Go for no. Go for no. You ask a question, you're full for 5 minutes. If you don't ask the question, you're full forever, kind of concept. So
I like that. I don't think I ever heard that one. That was good.
Ernest Levert, circa May 29th, 2020. I said it. You heard it here first.
I like that one.
And that's like ancient philosophy. But so Go for No is a book recommendation. What is one of the key takeaways? Like if someone watching this, you know, watch for the whole hour and didn't take anything else away, what's one thing that you want them to walk away with?
Never stop, man. I think Kobe said, no matter what the changes, the ups and downs, through it all, I stay the same. And I think that's very important. Daily, it's not going to be the easiest. You know what I mean? I have days where I'm like, you know, it's time to go take care of whatever it is, whether it be paperwork or actually going out and seeing property, stuff like that. There's days where I'm not ready. I'm not quite in the mood. I'm not ready for those 12 hours. But then there's days where I'm extremely happy that I came, and I kind of remember some of those original goals that I set 2 years ago before I could even get into this brokerage. So you have to stay grounded, stay focused, and, you know, through it all, if you persevere, it's going to happen.
Love it. I love it. And then what is one, so you talked earlier about implementation. What is one thing that you would challenge someone to do based on what you said today? When you leave this call, go do this one thing. What's one challenge for it?
Man, just look into whatever you're passionate about. you really have to look into look into it and understand how you can make it happen, because you can make it happen. You just have to really understand what you're passionate about. I don't care if you have to go talk, kind of like I did, just walking across the street to Vision and asking for some help, or if you can study it all up on YouTube. There's a lot of videos that can help with pretty much anything. No matter what it is, really get an understanding for what it is you're passionate for, and from there you can move forward.
I like that. Research your passion. Whether you talk to somebody, whether you get on YouTube or whatever, but research your passion. All right. Well, that's all I got for you today, Darius. We really appreciate you. Can everyone give a little air clap for our guest? We appreciate you being on here, taking the time to pour not only into our young people, but also into us. I know I definitely got a lot of gems, nuggets. I'm inspired by your story and your tenacity to keep pushing and to diversify your horizons. You know, you going all over the place and going to the top. So we appreciate you taking the time to be with us, and we'll look forward to staying connected with the internship. A couple
Absolutely.
announcements for our young people. We have internships coming up over the next this coming season. So 1 or 2 lucky young people will get a chance to actually connect with Vision Realty, most likely for an internship. So if you're interested in real estate, remember what he said: work hard, stand out, ask questions. We have our industry highlights every Friday, and then we'll be kicking those off here coming soon. So we appreciate everybody. Stay tuned, connect with your AMP coach, and we'll see you soon. Everyone have a great weekend.
Right. Thanks for having me.
Alrighty. Adios. Thank you.
Great job, Darius.